Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. If you've been feeling this, constant low-level anxiety about the economy lately, well, you are definitely not alone, and you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to completely shift your mindset. We're stepping away from stressing over the really tough 2025 macroeconomic landscape, and instead we're going to focus on giving you absolute control. By the end of this explainer, you'll be armed with the behavioral psychology and the mathematically proven wealth milestones that will dictate your financial future, completely regardless of what the broader economy is doing.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to cover the 2025 cost crisis, the psychology of fake wealth, why hitting $20,000 changes absolutely everything, the ultimate investment order, and finally, the 3 wealth milestones. Let's dive right in.
Okay, let me ask you a very real question. Why does making 100 grand suddenly feel like you're going broke? Seriously, if you feel like you're earning more than ever, but you're still basically living paycheck to paycheck, I want to validate that right now. Your feelings are completely justified. We're seeing an entire demographic of what we call high earners not rich yet, who are facing an intense macroeconomic squeeze right now in 2025. You aren't imagining the pressure. The underlying math has literally changed under our feet.
Which brings us to part 1, the 2025 cost crisis, or the macro squeeze.
Let's put this into perspective. Think about the crazy geometric distortion in housing math. Since 1990, median household income has actually gone up a really solid 180%, but the median home price? That has absolutely skyrocketed by 252%. What that means in plain English is that the national home price to income ratio jumped from a historical norm of basically 3 to 1 all the way up to 5 to 1 today in 2025. So that feeling of scarcity you have, it's mathematically proven. Living a comfortable middle-class life is undeniably far more expensive to secure than it was 30 years ago.
And it's not just housing. There are massive structural forces compounding this squeeze from all sides. Take the unbelievable boom in generative AI infrastructure right now. It's quietly driving up everyone's utility bills because U.S. data center power demand is surging by 22% every single year. That has pushed domestic electricity prices up 35% just since 2021. Add to that this historic shift toward a new protectionism. We're talking average tariff rates hitting between 9.6 and 15%. And since importers pass about 90% of those costs right back to us, everyday consumer goods are just gradually, persistently getting more expensive. The squeeze is structural and it is everywhere. All right, moving on to part 2, the psychology of fake wealth and why behavior trumps IQ. So here's a wild truth. Wealth is not a hard science like physics. It's actually a soft skill. It's built almost entirely on psychology, emotion, and self-control. Consider this crazy contrast. On one hand, you have a brilliant tech executive, a guy who literally helped invent part of Wi-Fi technology. Huge income, flashy spender, literally skipped gold coins across the ocean for fun. But he eventually died completely broke. Then you have Ronald Reed. He was a janitor, never made more than minimum wage in his life. But through simple, everyday habits and consistent investing, he passed away with $8 million in the bank. So at the end of the day, financial success is ultimately about how you behave, not how smart you are. And nothing illustrates this behavioral trap better than our subscriptions. In 2025, if you ask the average American, they'll estimate they spend about $86 a month on subscriptions. But the actual itemized total, it's $219. That is a $133 gap of just forgotten spend every single month. Psychologists actually call this phenomenon abundance denial. We have so many digital services now that they silently drain our disposable cash flow completely under the radar. It's essentially costing the average person over $2,600 a year in invisible taxes on their own wealth. It's wild. Let's talk solutions in part 3. Why $20,000 changes absolutely everything, moving from defense to offense.
Okay, hitting exactly $20,000 in liquid savings is a total game changer. It literally rewires your financial psychology. It fundamentally shifts the dominant question your brain asks every day. Instead of that constant, exhausting background anxiety, how do I survive this month, or can I afford it if the car breaks down, your brain is suddenly freed up. It starts asking, what do I actually want to build? That 20K is the exact magic threshold where you stop playing defense and you start playing offense.
Let's break down exactly why. That $20,000 buffer systematically destroys what we call the poverty premium. First off, say goodbye to $35 overdraft fees. Completely eliminated. You also unlock massive 20 to 30% savings because you finally have the cash to buy household goods in bulk. You can pay your insurance premiums once a year instead of monthly, which instantly grabs you a 10 to 15% discount. But honestly, the absolute best part? It literally buys you calm optionality. Imagine walking into a performance review at work, not feeling desperate. You can confidently negotiate for a 6 or 7% raise purely because you know, deep down, you have options. It's incredibly empowering. And the data totally backs this up. The amazing thing is, you don't even need the full 20 grand to start feeling the magic. Vanguard data shows that building up just a $2,000 buffer, which is often less than a single month of expenses, creates an immediate, measurable 21% boost in your financial happiness. That very first slice of savings, it is absolutely the most potent psychological medicine you can buy.
Okay, part 4, the ultimate investment order. Let's maximize those returns.
Listen, getting the sequence of your investments wrong is like trying to fill a bucket that has massive holes in the bottom. There is a strict mathematical blueprint here. Step 1 is always your emergency fund. Get $1,000 fast, then build up to 3 months of expenses. Step 2, wipe out high interest debt. Things like 22% credit cards are basically financial cancer. Step 3, grab your employer match. Seriously, that is quite literally 100% guaranteed return on your money. Step 4, max out tax-advantaged accounts like your IRA and HSA. And then, only after all of that is completely done, do you move to Step 5, taxable brokerage accounts. Follow this exact blueprint so you stop throwing free money away.
I actually want to pause for a second on Step 4 to talk about the absolute superpower that is the Health Savings Account, or HSA. It is the only account out there that gives you a triple tax advantage. Think about it. You get a tax deduction when you put the money in, the money grows totally tax-free while it's invested, and when you withdraw it for medical expenses, guess what? Still completely tax-free. And why is this so absolutely crucial? Because in 2025, a single year of nursing home care costs upwards of $129,000. Maxing out an HSA is quite simply your greatest shield against those devastating long-term healthcare costs.
Finally, we arrive at part 5, the 3 wealth milestones, the true tipping points of math. This is where the math gets really fun. Let's talk about how momentum actually plays out. Say you invest $500 a month at a 7% return. Getting from zero to your first $100,000, it is a brutal crawl. It takes 7 years and 9 months. You are doing all the heavy lifting there. But immediately after, compound interest wakes up. Going from 100K to 200K takes only 5 years, and from 200K to 400K, just another 5 years. The math just violently shifts in your favor.
That snowball effect brings us to our second massive milestone, $650,000. The significance of this specific number is profound. Assuming an 8% return, a $650,000 portfolio spits out $52,000 a year in completely passive yield. This totally flips your relationship with risk. When your investments alone can generate the equivalent of a full-time salary, suddenly selling your time to an employer becomes a choice rather than a desperate necessity. You are literally buying back your own life.
And then, of course, the ultimate psychological transformation, the $1 million mark. Getting here takes a lot of patience, and you kind of just have to accept that market volatility and crashes are just the required price of admission. You just have to ride it out. But once you cross that $1 million threshold, the math becomes almost ridiculous. To hit 1.5 million, you only need your portfolio to grow by 50%. By the time you reach 3 million, you only need a 33% bump to hit 4 million. At that point, the boulder is rolling downhill and your wealth is practically an unstoppable force.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this incredibly powerful quote from our sources. Wealth is what you don't see. Real wealth gives you options. It's the cars you didn't buy, the fancy upgrades you skipped. It's that invisible money compounding away an investment account. That is where true power lives. So here's my final provocative question for you to chew on today. Is the money you're spending right now buying you fleeting status today, or is it buying you the ultimate luxury of freedom and options for tomorrow? Thanks so much for tuning in, and remember to keep focusing on what you can actually control.